With scent, it's our first sense to develop in the womb. And when a baby is born, it's like they recognize the scent in the mother, and baby smells so good. And so it's like, it's this sense that's so important. When people lose their sense of smell, it's a affliction called anosmia. And it's like all the people you love you can't smell them anymore, and things don't taste good when you can't smell the aroma. So I feel like oftentimes people think if it was one sense that I would get rid of first, it would be scent. But it's like scent is like, it's so much about pleasure, and it's so tied to memory.
I think I know you better. Oh, if I knew your recipe. How much love do you put in the bowl when you cook from the soul, trying to feed your family? And do you have hand-me-down treasures from grandma's handwritten letters? The ones with the measurements. And do you have a lot of fun and laugh while you're prepping it? What'd you have for dinner last night? For your daughters and your dinner last night.
All right, for this episode, we have Jana Blankenship, who's one of our dearest friends and also an incredible entrepreneur, author, herbalist, and educator. On this episode, Jana talks a lot about scent, which she believes is one of the most powerful senses, and discusses how it ties to memory, the natural world, and in her home, it features prominently in food. She also shared this amazing story with us about how when she was a kid, she used to love making potions with her mother's many perfumes. She had all these perfumes, and she would just let Jana sort of mix and make her own scents. And at one point, she developed a really severe sensitivity to synthetic fragrances, which is ultimately what set her on this path of herbalism and natural scents. So much so that Jana went on to found one of the first early green beauty brands in the country, in the United States, called Captain Blankenship, because she's the captain. And we loved her products before we even met her. But what's so fascinating is that as she was on this process of developing these products, she was also incorporating a lot of the herbal traditions that her Serbian grandmother, Baka Milka, and her aunt and other elders in her family had passed down to her. Yeah, we talk a lot about that in this episode. Jana is also the author of Wild Beauty, which is the most beautiful book that really makes the prospect of creating natural products, creams, lipsticks, scents feel really accessible for people. And she co-authored the Seasonal Family Almanac with Emma. And a lot of the recipes that we talk about in this episode are in that book. So be sure to check that out. Without further ado, here is Jana Blankenship, plant goddess, and one of the biggest hearted humans we know. Jana, welcome to dinner last night.
Oh my God, I'm so excited.
So excited to interview one of our favorite people in the world. We're going to just dive right in.
Two of my favorite people in the world. I'm like so blessed right now.
Oh, well, both of us would love to know, what did you have for dinner last night?
Yeah, it's funny. I have listened. I love the podcast, and like my kids have listened to it too. And for so long, they've been like, what are you going to eat for dinner before the podcast? And in like classic style, we just moved back into our house on Saturday after an 18-month renovation. And like we have a kitchen, like the counters are in, but none of the appliances are hooked up. So we don't have a kitchen sink, but we put our table in and our chairs yesterday, and my brother and my sister-in-law are visiting. And so we had our first dinner at the table with like amazing takeout Indian food. And it was a really special night. It felt like a big celebration and like a real coming home. So it was an amazing dinner. I did not cook it, though I cannot. The kitchen should be done this week, and I cannot wait to cook in it. But it was perfect. It was absolutely perfect.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you.
Also, when you started talking about like dinner not being a traditional dinner last night, it made me think that when we first started talking about this podcast, Emma and I, you had a story where your power was out or something, and you guys had beans and canned fruit. And it was one of the examples that we often referred to. Like,
oh, I remember that. Yeah, we had like pineapple and beans out of a can.
So there's something so special about coming around the table with family. Like that's almost all as the holidays are approaching here, this will come out in the new year, but we're on the cusp of all the winter solstice celebrations, Hanukkah, Christmas. I've been thinking, what's our tradition at home? Because we often travel to visit family. And I was like, maybe we'll just lean into our Jewish side and get Chinese takeout. Because the only thing that really matters is that we're around the table eating together.
Yeah, and just honoring the food that you're eating, like wherever it comes from. It's what it's about. I did think at a moment, I was like, maybe I'll try to use the Instant Pot to make a meal in the kitchen. And I was like, no, don't do it. Because I washed the dishes in the bathtub.
Oh my God, I was going to ask, what are your hacks? Like, you're actually experiencing what I feel like a lot of people around the world, it's their daily, right? They don't have access to fresh running water or appliances. So how are you preparing food for your family? Where are you washing your dishes? Like, give us the lowdown on what that looks like in a kitchen under construction.
Yeah. I mean, I feel so grateful. And like we've been living at my mom's house since February. So I feel so grateful. We're in a beautiful home, but we really wanted to move back in for the holidays. So we've only been there a couple of days and our kitchen should be done by the end of the week. So I feel so grateful. Like this is just, it was just like a temporary inconvenience, but it was kind of funny to be like until Friday, we had cardboard down on the countertops and just having new countertops felt like such a big deal. I feel so grateful. But I have been washing the dishes in the bathtub or the bathroom sink. Just making
we do what we have to. Exactly.
We do what we have to. And actually, luckily, I have 2 huskies. And so last night after dinner, like and my old husky loved Indian food. So I was like, maybe they like Indian food. So I just put the dishes down and my brother has his husky visiting too. And the dogs just ate all the like leftover rice and curry. My own dishwashing method.
We just got off a call where we were talking about food waste. And actually, because I have a dog too there's Penny. Can you see her?
Oh my gosh, cutie
dogs
pie.
are a great way to deal with food waste, I find.
They are.
From dinner.
They are. Everyone wins.
I know. Okay, so Indian for dinner last night, but you have a really cool family heritage. Your family on your mom's side comes from Serbia. So I'm curious, are there typical Serbian foods or traditions that you incorporate into your family life?
Yes. And I mean, I feel so grateful that my grandmother, Milka, was such a huge part of my childhood. She and my grandfather, Milan, lived up in Montreal. And I would spend so much time with them. I was just actually rethinking about like going and visiting her. And every time you'd open the door to their apartment, it was like something delicious was cooking. If it was like fresh bread or beans or stuffed peppers, and it was like the aromas, so amazing. And I got 1 degree in fine art in college and I painted this. Hold on, see if I can get it. Painting of her.
Oh, wow. When you said that was a painting of your grandmother, I didn't realize that you painted it.
Yeah, it's funny actually.
Beautiful.
I'm sitting in my mom's bedroom right now because our house is still pretty loud with the construction. And my mom's house is like filled with all of my paintings from high school and college. So it's kind of amazing to like revisit all these parts of myself. So I have memories of visiting her by myself as a child. I was probably like 7. And she told me that we were going to make a cake, but that I was going to create the recipe. So she put out all the ingredients and I made a cake with eggs and flour and milk and a lot of salt, maybe some sugar. But it was great. Like, I feel like she was the one who really, put my hands in things and helped me learn how to cook. Not that my mom cooks some amazing Serbian meals from my childhood. There's like an incredible cheese pie that they make in Serbia called gibanica, which is like deep comfort food for me. And my kids love too. But the word for grandmother in Serbian is Baka. So my Baka Milka was really like the one who and she had a background in herbalism too. So she was kind of the one who really like set me on my path with cooking. And I just have such strong scent memories from her apartment. And it's actually been really nice this past year because we've been living in my mom's house And she does love to cook Serbian dishes like ibanica or stuffed peppers, and we'll make Baka Milka's bread together. But on the daily, she doesn't love to cook. So I love to cook. So I've been cooking a lot, and she's been saying that I've made her house feel like Baka Milka's apartment, which was
What an
like,
amazing compliment.
I know.
Wow.
I know. I know. It's been really sweet. It's like I'm happy to be moving back home, but I'm so grateful for this like really tender time.
But you said scent memories, which I love. There's just something about like a scent has so much connection to things in our lives, right? Like Emma and I were saying the scent of Nivea cream reminds us of our mom. And I actually was trying to find a scent for a while that my kids could connect to me. And everything that I tried, they hated. I've just realized that they just don't like scents. And I have my own special scent that they love. But I mean, you are so immersed in the world of scents and herbs. And I love to hear more about that. And when you started sort of making the connection between what your grandma instilled in you and what you do now.
Yeah. It's interesting with scent. It's our first sense to develop in the womb. And when a baby is born, it's like they recognize the scent of the mother, and babies smell so good. And so it's like it's this sense that's so important when people lose their sense of smell. It's a affliction called anosmia, and it's like all the people you love, you can't smell them anymore, and things don't taste good when you can't smell the aroma. So I feel like oftentimes people think if it was one sense that I would get rid of first, it would be scent. But it's like scent is like, it's so much about pleasure, and it's so tied to memory. And I think for me, I grew up in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and we had a beautiful yard. There was wild mint growing there, and there were roses. And like, I remember that so strongly. Now when I have mint growing in my garden, it takes me right back there to like the apple mint in my backyard. It colors our days. And actually my mom was a fashion designer, and she had this mirrored vanity in her bathroom. It was like super 80s, like a marble tub and the bubble bath. And the vanity was just filled with perfumes, and she did not care about any of them. She just she'd go to couture shows and get them. And so but they were like, in the 80s, perfume bottles were so decadent and like amazing. And they had names like Poison. Like, to like a little kid, it's just like, what is this? And so she actually let me mix all of her perfumes together into my own like signature scents. And I mean, the perfumes were like totally toxic and horrible. So I ended up developing a sensitivity to synthetic fragrance that I still have now. But ever since I was a kid, I was a little potion maker, and I love scent. But I abandoned synthetic fragrances very young because I get a really visceral reaction. I feel like I'm going to throw up or faint. I get really hot. Like I don't feel good.
I get a really bad headache. Like if I walk into a department store, instant, or even like the mall, holiday shopping. I mean, not even the mall, like just little boutiques, like the candles, all the things. It really affects me too. And maybe just before we could just pause here quickly, because I'm sure you know more about this, but over the years, I've learned a lot about how fragrances affect your hormones. I was just shopping for fragrance-free leave-in conditioner. Do you have a leave-in conditioner that you make?
We're making one. We're making one.
You are? Okay, because I just got one and I used it this morning, and it was so strong and overpowering, and I can't handle it. So
it's crazy. I feel like especially with hair care, people want things like scents in the natural world wax and wane. They don't last. And with synthetic fragrance, it's made to last forever. It's like you could bury that bottle and in 1,000 years, it would smell just as strong. And it's because it's made of like a Pandora's box of synthetic chemicals that, mostly petrochemicals. And companies don't need to disclose the ingredients. And so many of them are known allergens, they're hormone disruptors. So it's like, I feel so bad, especially as the mother of a tween. I'm like, I can't unknow what I know. And so, yeah, I feel bad. I was, as soon as my daughter Mila, who's now 12, like went to Sephora and left smelling like Sol de Janeiro. I was like, no, like I can't do it. I know too much, and you're giving me a headache. But yeah, it's something I'm really passionate about. And I have a background in natural perfumery, so I just know how good things can smell naturally. You mentioned the scent of your mom. And though my mom had all these synthetic fragrances, there was one scent that she wore called Tea Rose, which must have been mostly natural because it didn't give me a headache. And I was once taking a class in college, and they were talking about the senses, and they passed around this bottle of perfume, and they were like, what does this smell like to anyone? And it was tea rose. So I was like, it smells like my mom. It's tea rose. And they're like, how did you know that? I'm like, this is so, but it's something I hadn't smelled in so long. And then it's like in an instant, it brings you right back. And that's so powerful. Synthetic fragrances are, they don't have anything of the natural world in them.
Hi, friends. Quick pause to say thank you so much for listening. It's really nice to know we're not just sitting here talking to ourselves. Though, to be fair, we'd probably be doing that anyways. Definitely. Season 2 is our love letter to the Hudson Valley, and we're thrilled to be sharing our guests' extraordinary stories and wisdom with you. Did you know that for each episode, we're also offering an exclusive giveaway that includes a gift from one of our guests or a copy of one of our own cookbooks? You don't want to miss these. And it's so easy to enter the giveaway. All you need to do is head to bit.ly DLN giveaway. That's DLN giveaway, all lowercase, and enter your email. The link's also in the show notes. All right, back to the episode. During COVID, a lot of people experienced what it's like to lose scent. And I couldn't taste or smell for almost a week the first time I had it. And it was devastating. And I think that one of your gifts is making sense. Like you've made me a perfume called Petrichor, which is meant to invoke the smell of rain on dust or the after smell of rain. And other beautiful scents that are alive and good for your body. So can you tell us a little bit about your journey? I love how you were a potion maker as a kid with highly toxic perfumes, and that had a serious lasting impact on you. Yeah. But that guided you towards working with, you had a mentor in California, right? Who taught you how to make natural fragrance, and then that led into building Captain Blankenship. So can you tell us a little bit about that journey?
Sure. Yeah. So after like discovering this sensitivity or creating this sensitivity to synthetic fragrance, I kind of abandoned wearing scents, but I still loved, the smells. Like I've always, the smell of fir balsam, the smell of an orange, like all of these, these beautiful, I like indulged in all the, sensuous smells of the natural world, but I was not wearing perfumes. And then I met my husband, Levi, in Ithaca. And soon after we met, we lived in New York for a year, but then we moved out to California. And I actually like to think that we went out to Berkeley. We had friends living there, and we were like, well, maybe we want to move to California. And we arrived there and the jasmine was blooming. And I was like, I'm home. Like, I need to live here. It was so intoxicating and beautiful. And we lived out in the Bay Area for 8 years. And we lived in the hills in North Berkeley when we first got there. And there was like, just hiking with the eucalyptus, the jasmine blooming, the citrus everywhere. It was like so amazing. And before I started my business, I had a whole other career as a contemporary art curator. But one day I ended up walking into a friend's store in Berkeley, and I saw a little sterling silver compact of solid perfume, and it said jasmine and blood orange on it. And I mean, as someone who hadn't been wearing scent, I was like, well, jasmine and blood orange, I love those scents or those plants. And so I, opened it and I tried it on, and it smelled like jasmine and blood orange and grapefruit naturally. And I found out that the perfumer who made it, Mandy Aftel, lived right around the corner. And she is like an amazing, like a huge inspiration to me still. We're still like good friends. And she's written many books about natural perfumery, is like an incredibly generous teacher. And she also has a museum dedicated to botanical extracts and essential oils and like the rich history in Berkeley. And it's so worth visiting if you're there. But yeah, I ended up taking a class with her at Esalen in Big Sur. And that was it. it was like this thread that I'd started in childhood of just being a potion maker. All of a sudden I was right back there. And that really kind of ignited everything that I've done since then. I really am so grateful to her. And, from then on, I just started making things in my kitchen. This was 2008. So there were like so few clean beauty brands on the market then. And especially if there were, it's like any of the products smelled like lavender or vanilla or very one noted. And I just have always been in love with the experiential nature of scent and how multidimensional it is. And so I really wanted to make things that smelled evocative of the natural world. And it was funny. It was one of those things where it was not what I studied in college or grad school, but it was like this gift that I had that I've just been developing. And it's so much fun. Like I love making, it sounds funny because I love making sense.
Yeah.
I really make a lot of sense all the time.
You're good at those plays on words. Like your Substack is titled
Puns.
Which Way?
I know.
Puns.
Oh, yeah.
Which spelled WITCH. So you mentioned fir balsam. That immediately made me think of spruce and your aunt, who was one of your greatest herbal teachers. Can you tell us a little bit about how the traditions of your elders and your family gave you this opening into herbalism and inspired you as well on this path?
Definitely. So yes, my aunt Angela, she never had any children. And I was like, definitely, we looked so much alike. She was always kind of my spiritual mother. And we just had so much in common. She had an amazing farm outside of Montreal. And looking back on my childhood visiting her there, it's like she had donkeys and horses and like at times probably up to 50 cats. Some lived inside, some were outside. Like it was just this like magical, whimsical place. And she was just like a magnetic, charismatic person. And yeah, it was like her farm was just a universe unto itself. So it was so fun visiting her, and she had incredible gardens and was kind of the first, I think, really indulged me as a potion maker she was also an artist too. And I've always had a practice in fine arts too. So I feel like when I'd go there, it's like I could draw, I could work with plants outside, I could make potions. And you're mentioning fir balsam. She had an amazing tree there that she named Mihailo, like this beautiful, huge fir balsam, go hide underneath it. And in the winter, she and my grandmother Milka would get a big cauldron out and they would make an amazing fir balsam or pine needle or a mix cough syrup. It was like fir balsam, honey, and lemon just brewed together. And it was just so delicious and good. And I actually, being winter again and almost the solstice, I was like, I need to brew some of this up. I think one of the things like you don't typically think of in this world we live in now, though it is like fir balsam, pine needles, like amazing herbal remedies, like full of vitamin C, great for colds and coughs, like mucus, all of it, great for the sinuses. Like the taste of it is so delicious and it tastes like the smell. And then it's just like the whole experience is amazing.
So can you use any kind of pine needles?
Any kind of pine needles, but of course not like something like a Norfolk pine or a yew. But
yew is very poisonous.
Yeah, yew is very
Okay.
poisonous.
Okay.
Yeah. But any other conifer should be fine, but not yew or Norfolk pine.
Okay, cool. I'm totally going to do that. Last year we made a cleaning solution with pine needles.
A few questions. So one, Jana, I'd love to hear your advice for the listeners on how to be sure that you can use something, consume something that's wild.
If you are visiting the farm, if you're cutting down your own tree, just always asking, how things were treated. But it is, at least like right outside my door here, though not everywhere, there is a fir balsam tree. And there's an amazing grandmother pine tree in my neighborhood. Like every year I go and I harvest some needles responsibly to make tea. So I guess, ideally, if just knowing if a plant was treated well and if it was sprayed with any toxins, because then certainly you don't want to be ingesting it.
Right. And also using foraging guides, talking to someone who is an expert, who knows what they're talking about.
Exactly. And one of my favorite foraging guides is Samuel Thayer's guide. It's
Love
a big,
him.
thick tome, but it's amazing. So yeah, you definitely, especially for ingesting, like you want to be very careful. Though I one thing that I have to say I love to do with my Christmas tree, and I have like a lot of different. I at some point want to do a Substack about this, but like all the ways to honor your Christmas tree, including one my favorite currently, which is making incense from the needles. But then also you can just, harvest some branches from it, add them to some water, and even like put some orange peels in it and have it on your stove as like a steam and have, create like a beautiful aroma in your home.
Oh, that's such a good idea.
Yeah. Put it in the shower when you're taking a
Oh,
shower.
yeah.
Yeah. So many things to do with it.
I love that.
And actually in the book that Emma and I wrote together, Seasonal Family Almanac, there's an evergreen spray recipe of making your own evergreen room spray.
Okay.
Also great to do with kids. All of these things are fun to do with kids too.
Also, another little plug for the book, going back to talking about tweens and scent. A lot of people have told me that their tweens, as they get interested in natural makeup and perfume and hair care, they've been turning to our book for all the natural beauty recipes that you have in there.
Well, you also have a ton of recipes in your other book, Wild Beauty, which I love. I think you have one for eyeshadow, don't you?
I do. The fun thing about DIY beauty recipes is that you get to make them exactly how you want it. And if it doesn't turn out, then you can try it again and you can dial it in exactly to your desires and you can change it up throughout the year. So, and they make incredible gifts. And it's just a fun way to know about these products and what goes in them.
You know what? I know, and I want to talk to you about this because you've started teaching classes locally and at retreats, teaching people how to do incense as well. But it'd be so cool to do a birthday party with tween girls where they make their makeup or scents, right?
Yeah. We have a friend who did that. That was the whole theme of the party. They made recipes from your book and our book.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, I know. I love that idea.
Makes me so happy. Yeah, it's the best. And, the thing is that I think people think that these products would be so too hard to make at home, but it's so easy to pull off. And it's so special to have made it yourself. So
right. Maybe you can host like a ladies' night with some wine and we can make our own lipstick.
Yes.
That'd be fun.
Totally.
And maybe we could do that live online so people can virtually
go.
So down. No,
Love
it's been
it.
fun. I've even, as you were mentioning, I've started teaching locally, and teaching is something that I love to do. And it was like being the CEO, founder of a company and like raising small children. I hadn't done it for a long time. And then in the past few years, and especially like with the books, it's been such a natural, like you have these recipes and it's like, let's make them together. And so I've done a lot of like natural perfumery classes, incense making, lotion making, lip balm making. And it's so fun and empowering. And it's been really nice because so many of the people that have done it with me have stayed in touch and said like, this has transformed my life. Now I'm making this product myself and I love the way it smells. And I think too, in making these products, you learn so much about yourself and about your own preferences where, you go to a store and you buy something and you're like, this is okay, but I'm going to keep using it. And it's just, I don't know, it becomes embodied when you make it yourself, and then being able to give it as gifts and keep changing, the scents throughout the seasons or making tweaks to make it more personal. It's really empowering.
What I love is that often you're making it in bulk. So you do have a stash of gifts, and it's so special to give somebody a tincture bottle or a small bottle of lotion made with plants that you've harvested or grown. It just feels more personal. And
it does. And it has a story. And I think too, something not to discount is that it's made with love. And when you're making something and the intention is like making it for yourself and giving it to the people you love, like that is a key ingredient that is infused in that product. So I was actually just thinking about one of the recipes from our book, Emma, for the Deep Love lotion bars, which is like such a great holiday gift. And though I'm in like the process of renovating the house, I was like, I have to find my molds to make the lotion bars because it makes such a nice gift. And you can make lotion bars in any shape with silicone molds, but I have heart-shaped ones. And it's especially for the holidays, it's like, all you really need is love. Here's the heart.
All you need is love.
Love.
Do, do.
I'm also making homemade gifts. You know what I'm making because I sent you a picture, but I'm making incense, which you taught me how to do. And it's been so fun. So fun. And just like, I've been trying to find more ways to just sort of slow down and do things that are not on a screen with my hands. And, you know, your hands get covered in all the powder. You can't do anything else. You're just there, you know, present with this activity for however long it takes. I've learned that you cannot save the dough because it goes moldy. So
Yeah, because there's water. Yeah, you have to dry
yeah,
it.
I guess because I'm not using distilled water either, which I should be.
Emma here with another quick dance break. Okay. Anyway, if you're enjoying season 2, we'd love to stay in touch through our Substack newsletter. You can subscribe at the link in the show notes, easy peasy, or head to dinnerlastnightpod.com and subscribe to our newsletter from there. When you subscribe, you'll get one of my free monthly meal plans for stress-free, delicious dinners that your whole family will love. And trust me, I know, and so does Dim, because we've tested all these recipes on our kids. Let's head back to the episode now. Well, one of the things that I love about you and I've always loved about you is that you're so generous with sharing information. I feel like you really subscribe to the idea that herbalism is an oral tradition and one that we share and learn from each other. And you've had this company, which we haven't mentioned yet, Captain Blankenship. It's an incredible hair care. Your alter ego, which also the bottles started with your fine art all over them. It's a natural hair care company. And even as you've been selling this product, when people say to you like, oh, I love this, you know, would you mind telling me how to make it? Or you've discontinued this product. Are you going to bring it back? You're just like, I'm just going to give you the recipe. And that's led you into this space of doing more education. Tell us what it's been like to own a company that makes products and sells them, and how you're integrating that with where you want to be now.
So where I was talking about, I think, studying with Mandy Aftel and then starting to make things in my kitchen, it was like a side project, a passion project that quickly became like my poor husband. It's like, what happened to our house? Like, it was like
your production line.
Apothecary.
Yeah, it just like smelled so strongly of so many. It was funny. I had my first beloved husky, Vuka. I got her when we lived in the Bay Area. And it was right when I was, you know, kind of discovering my love of making natural perfumes and products. And that poor dog was like, what is happening in this house? Like, it smells crazy in
There
here.
are worse things than we were on a call earlier where someone was saying, how do you deal with the smell of latkes when you cook latkes, because the whole house smells like it.
Yeah.
So they're, you know, fried oil versus natural scents.
It's true. And
Or
it was funny. It's
Yeah, sardines.
You're right. And actually it was kind of amazing because that like first, you know, we moved to the Bay Area and that like first table, that dining room table we got on Craigslist, like wood table. When we left the Bay Area, I gave it to a friend and it smelled so strongly of, you know, it's like you'd smell it and it was like, it smelled like vetiver and jasmine, like everything kind of locked in there. And it was amazing. But yeah, it just started as a passion project in my kitchen. And as someone, I've always had a very curious mind and I see something and I want to learn how to make it and I want to make it with my hands and I want to add my touch to it. And so I was making natural perfumes and then, you know, a friend would ask me like, can you make a dry shampoo? Can you make a sea salt hairspray? And so I just started making things and it really, there was no limit. I was making perfume, skincare, hair care, body care, kombucha, you know, it's like I had this like wild mad lab making things and it was such a like generative amazing time. And I took classes. I used to make soap too. I took classes, you know, kind of like wide ranging classes. I actually recently remembered making soap and I'm like, I want to start doing that again. But yeah, it was like a very interesting moment because there were so few clean beauty brands. And even though I did not see it as my path as like, you know, I was studying to be a curator. I was working at a contemporary art institute in San Francisco. And I at some point just realized like, oh, my friend had a store and wanted to start carrying my products. And I was like, oh, I guess they need a name and I guess I need to start a business. And so in the most backwards way, I started the business, and a friend of mine had joked when I was getting married that my husband's last name was Blankenship, and I loved that name. And she joked that I was going to be the captain of the Blankenship. And like, that was it. That was the business. I scribbled the logo on a napkin and like, that was it. That was it.
Such a good name.
Yeah, I know. It's like quirky and whimsical, and I still love it, even 15 years later.
I think it's also a great example of how you just follow your gut and the flow that all popped up naturally, and you cooperated with what what was coming at you. Like, yeah, that's a great name. Let's scribble a logo. Sure, we'll put it in the store.
Yeah, it felt right. And yeah, it just, the company, I mean, it was an interesting time because at that moment there were so few clean brands. So the brand grew by word of mouth. And then, over the past 15 years, it's like we've worked with Target and Ulta and Sephora and Whole Foods. And now the products are all in Erewhon and Credo Beauty, which is an amazing clean beauty retailer, the Detox Market, Grove Collaborative. So it's been a wild adventure. And as someone who is definitely a creative, kind of being an entrepreneur, I've definitely learned by doing. But it's been an amazing adventure, and I love doing it. And I do think now that, the brand over time has sold so many things, but right now we're just focused on hair care. And I have to say, like, DIY shampoo and conditioner is a lot harder than making a face oil. So, and I'm super proud of those formulas. Like the shampoo and conditioner took me over 3 years to formulate, and I'm really proud of them. I love the whole line. It's all kind of wild, effortless hair care that, gives you your best hair naturally. And it's all powered with 5 different seaweed extracts that are from Maine, where I spend every summer. So it's been an incredible adventure, and I'm so proud of it. And we have so much in the pipeline, including a leave-on conditioner and a hair gel and a hair gel.
Yes.
Hair gel.
This year, I want you to bring that hair gel
I know,
back.
I cannot wait.
So good.
But it's been nice, as someone who loves to formulate across all categories. And as you were mentioning, people all the time are like, that perfume that you made, like, I miss it. Like, when is it coming back? And, even someone wrote me, we used to sell these amazing bath salts, and someone was like, do you sell them anymore? And I was like, we haven't sold them in so long. But it's really nice to be able to teach product making. And it, like, there's so many things. It kind of extends beyond. It's like, in our book, we have a DIY bath. I don't call them bath bombs. I call them bath fizzes. But like, I think people imagine that's so hard to make, and it's actually not hard at all. So it's been really fun to be teaching on the side, and just great because I'm just so passionate about plants and plant-based ingredients. Running a company, it's like there is some of that, but there's also a lot of administrative work. And I just love working with people. And I always need to be working with my hands. Like I can't stop. That's just who I am. And actually it's been hard to not have a kitchen, but when I do have a kitchen, it's like, I'll have elderberry syrup and like soup on the stove and, so many, and endless cups of tea. And, I'm the happiest when I'm like stirring many pots at once.
I want to just talk about your connection to land, because you do have such a special relationship with different places. You mentioned Maine, where the seaweed extracts come from for your products, and where you have, I think, like 100+ generations old history with there, correct?
Yeah.
And then also the Hudson Valley, where you took us crystal hunting. I've never been crystal hunting before. Like, you seem to, land in places and really connect with the different gifts that they offer.
And there's so many things I want to say, but I want to ground it in one thing, which was, we're back in our house. We've lived there for 12 years. We moved there when my daughter was a baby, and I feel so connected to that land and so anchored. We live on a river, and we look out at the Shawangunk Mountains. And I remember when I saw our house and I walked in and saw the land, and I was like, I want to look at this every day. I feel so grateful. And since we have been away, this morning I run with my huskies every day. We go outside hiking or running, and I ran around my neighborhood for the first time, I guess, since February. And just being able to greet, it's like that kind of sacred geography of that place, like seeing the pine tree, seeing where the elderberries grow, seeing I harvest nettles down by the river, just like visiting all those places and greeting them again was so wonderful.
It's like
And
seeing old friends.
it is. It felt like seeing old friends. It was like I ran around the neighborhood and I like saw all my friends, and the dogs were so happy too to be home. And I'm a Taurus, and I think I'm like the most biggest Taurus ever. It's like I'm like a lover of nature and beauty, and I love being grounded. And so this renovation has been hard, but I'm so excited, and I love where we live. I love harvesting the nettles to make soup and tea, and I actually like being at my mom's house. I've been drinking nettle tea almost every day from down in front of my house. And yeah, so land and these mountains that we live by. As a kid, in addition to being a potion maker, I've always been a treasure collector. And so I had an amazing rock collection, always like collecting shells. Living out in the Bay Area, I collected so many pieces of abalone off the beach and shark teeth. And I always have like boxes of little treasures, and my eyes are always on the ground. But I didn't know when we moved here that there are crystal veins that run through the mountains here. They're really sacred mountains, and there are many places where you can find crystals. And so I guess for the past like 14 years since we've lived in the Hudson Valley, I've gone crystal hunting. It's one of my favorite things to do. I even once took Mila is not in the Girl Scouts anymore, but when she was little, I took her Girl Scout troop.
I bet they loved that.
They love it. And I haven't even talked about my son Caspian, but like they're both little treasure collectors.
Both your kiddos are soccer superstars. You have an incredibly busy schedule with their activities, your work, Levi's work. I guess I'm curious, what are some of your go-to meals and how you deal with dinner in the context of everything happening in your home?
Yeah. So both of my kids are incredible athletes, and it's been wild. They would do as many sports as they possibly could. But my son Caspian now plays for a soccer team in New Jersey, and he practices in New Jersey 4 nights a week and then has games all over the Northeast on the weekends. And then my daughter Mila plays for another soccer academy that, has practices all over. And they also both play lacrosse, and they're both doing basketball this winter too. It's like I don't know how it all works, but they love it, and I've kind of embraced it. But it has meant that, oftentimes dinner is eaten in the car or, late at night. And so I really lean into, especially on the weekends, trying to make meals that can be in the fridge all week and we can heat up. I love making soup. Having just like jars of soup in the fridge to heat up, freezing soup, defrosting it. I love making homemade mac and cheese too, always, and just being able to heat it up again. Sometimes there isn't time for that, and it's just making sandwiches for the car, like tons of snack. Caspian loves food. He's just like a very adventurous eater, and in the fall, I'll dry apples and make apple rings. And like, I always have those snacks in the car for him. And yeah, actually I should mention, because I guess that you had Sarah Copeland, who I adore. And I love all of her cookbooks, but her Instant Family Meals cookbook is like incredible.
That's a go-to
I've really
for
embraced
me.
the Instant Pot as, a savior when you don't have a lot of time. And if it's an incredible book. And her chicken and olives in there.
Yeah,
that's my
one of my
favorite.
I love it so much. And it's like, it saves the day. And it feels like an incredibly fancy meal that took a long time to make, and it didn't.
Yeah, she's so good at that. Like really the simple, elevated meals.
Yeah. So I love her cookbook. No, and her dishes are so flavorful too. So it just, even when you're rushing and there's so many things to do in a stressful day, like it really having the time to eat a delicious meal even if it's not at traditional times, if it's in the car, or if it's not all together, it happens. And I've kind of embraced that's our life now. It's joyful chaos.
I feel like I needed to hear that from you because we've just always eaten our meals together and we're so committed to that. And it's becoming impossible because of all of their different practices, but also because when we do wait for everyone, we're eating dinner so late and then they're going to bed so late and they're not getting enough sleep. So in fact, just this morning, Nolan and I were like, I think we need to change things up. Like, we might not be able to eat together all the time, or we eat really early and then they have a snack when they get home, because it's just that season of life where, it's okay if we don't sit down together every single night.
It's okay. And it's all a process and it's unfolding and it's not always going to be that way. But I have to say this fall was like definitely the craziest season of our lives with Kaz moving to a soccer team in New Jersey. And it's like, we just had to adapt. And I think too, it makes you, when it can't always be as you'd like it makes it even more special when you're all sitting around the table together and you get to really enjoy a meal and take your time.
Yeah, it's so true. Before we close out this episode, we want to make sure you know how much we love you and appreciate you listening. If this conversation made you think of someone in your life, we'd love it if you shared it with them. Send a text, a DM, however you share the things that inspire you. That's the best way to help spread these beautiful real-life stories from our incredible guests. We're really grateful for your support. Back to the episode. Okay, so rapid fire questions. You ready? So don't think too much about these and you have to answer quickly. All right, so first one, which was Emma's question, but we'll make it rapid fire. What's your favorite tincture to make for child remedies?
So I love, and it's actually a recipe in Seasonal Family Almanac, but I love making elderberry syrup. It's something I will freeze the elderberries too. I have a friend, I have some elderberries at my house, but I have a friend who has like an abundance of elderberries. And and there are also some bushes in my neighborhood. And so I will harvest elderberries and freeze them and then make elderberry syrup throughout the winter. And it's so good. And there's a recipe in Seasonal Family Almanac for turning the elderberry syrup into elderbear gummies. Right? So yeah. That's my go-to. It tastes delicious. And you can make it into tea too, just by adding hot water.
I can attest to the deliciousness. Okay. Second one is, what's your favorite scent?
Oh, it's a hard one. I mean, jasmine is like, and growing up in the Northeast and not having jasmine around, like jasmine is so special, but I love rose too, especially the scent of the wild rose, the Rosa rugosa. It's just so warm and delicate and a little spicy. And then for balsam, I love, and at citrus, like sweet orange, blood orange, grapefruit, and vetiver.
What about lilac? Do you like lilac? Because I feel like that's very Northeast.
Oh, yes. I love the scent of lilac. And that is one of the ones that you can't capture. You can't make essential oils out of lilac. The scent just dissipates. And so there are some extracts of lilac, but they pale in comparison to the scent of just burying your head in the lilacs. And they bloom around my birthday in May. So it's like my favorite. I love lilacs. I mean, lilac honey.
Yes, I was going to say the best way to capture it, again, something you taught me, is to make lilac honey.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you made that.
Yeah, it's so good. I love lilacs. Ugh.
Next question. What's your favorite activity to do to de-stress?
Ooh, well, as we were just talking about making recently, and as everything's been kind of in upheaval with going between homes, I need to work with my hands. And so making incense has been, and it was something I always wanted to learn how to make incense. And the idea of making incense sticks just felt like, oh, that must be impossible. And in the past, I guess 2 years, I've started making incense sticks, and it's really easy and really fun. And just using wild harvested plants from outside, even ingredients in your kitchen too, like cinnamon, dried orange peels, harvesting. I use a lot of roses from my garden in incense. So I've been loving making incense sticks and then making air dry clay incense holders. And I think that everyone, actually over Thanksgiving, we just had, so many kids here and just put out the clay on the table and making incense. And everyone just feels so much better when they're working with their hands. Like everyone is craving that.
I totally agree. If you have tips for how to get very active tweeny boys to sit and work with their hands, I cannot get my 11-year-old to help me with incense or clay. Maybe we need to come over so he can do it with Caspian.
Yeah. I mean, I think actually, I think that's a large part of it is, if there's multiple kids working on things, it's like everyone, it was really interesting because over Thanksgiving it was like the youngest was 6, and then up to my niece who's about to turn 21, everyone was just sitting there making like beautiful candle holders, incense holders, painting pine cones. It was like I felt bad though. It was on my mom's kitchen table. And before I knew it, it was like, there was paint everywhere. I was like, oh no.
Last question. What is your favorite music to listen to while cooking or making something?
Oh,
it can be a genre.
Oh my gosh,
yeah.
we need to call out Jana's Substack comes out every month on the full moon. And what I love so much about it is, there's always a story and a seasonal recipe, and it's a lot of the kinds of recipes we're talking about today. But you also always include a playlist that is tuned to that moon and season. And it's one of my favorite things. So which way on Substack? Okay, tell us your favorite music song.
Oh, that's so hard. We're always listening to music in our house. Like both my husband and I love music, and the kids love music too. So we'll kind of rotate. But if it's up to me, as Emma was mentioning, I love listening to Fish. I'm going to 3 shows at New Year's. So it's usually, and my husband, like he has an encyclopedic memory. So, he's always pulling up like his favorite Fish songs, and he loves to put together playlists too. But like lately, my daughter Mila loves SZA, and I love SZA too. So it's kind of like whatever I'm in the mood for, and we love to dance too. So I feel like that's the fun thing about cooking for me is like, it's like I'm dancing around, listening to music. Often the kids are around, maybe they're helping me, and it's really joyful. It makes something that could feel somewhat mundane really special.
The other night I was kind of frantically preparing dinner, and I was like, this can be fun. And I turned on some music and poured a little beer, and I was just like,
yeah,
this moment can be enjoyable. My kids that will seep into the house.
It does,
yeah,
and it
music
seeps into
really
the
does
food too.
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
It's a play.
Right.
That's what Nolan always asks the kids when he makes something. He says, "Can you tell what the secret ingredient is?" And nowadays he's actually like asking about a secret ingredient, but their response is always love, because that's what he always says. So
that's the best.
Yeah,
that's all that matters. We're back to it. All you need is love.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, Jana, thank you so much for being here with us on Dinner Last Night and sharing your wisdom.
You're the
we
best.
love you. Thank you for being an inspiration
so
to us and so many people.
Beaming love both ways.
Right back at you. All right, love.
Thank you.
See you soon in your new home. Before you go, I just wanted to say one more time, thank you so much for listening to Dinner Last Night. Feeding our families isn't always easy, but dinner is almost always a story worth sharing and a meal that connects us all. Dinner Last Night is co-produced by us, Emma Frisch and Dimity Palmer-Smith, your twin hosts behind the show. And the episodes in Season 2 are edited by Stuart Hetzler. The theme song We Can't Stop Dancing To is written by Emerson Longstory Bartlett, featuring Drew Martin on saxophone. And yes, that's a chorus of our kids you hear singing along. To get all the juicy extra bits that accompany each episode, like recipes and giveaways, you can subscribe to our newsletter at dinnerlastnightpod.com. And every episode includes a special giveaway, which you can enter through the link in the show notes or by heading to bit.ly/DLN giveaway. That's DLN giveaway, all in lowercase. You can also follow us on Instagram at Dinner Last Night Pod for guest highlights, micro street interviews where we buck up and ask strangers what they had for dinner last night,
dinnertime inspiration, and cheesy twin moments. From our table to yours, thank you so much for being part of this journey, and thank you for listening.
What'd you have for dinner last night? For your daughters and your sons versus where you come from. What'd you have for dinner last night? How many meals can you make in your mind? What'd you have for dinner last night? You got some tips for saving some time? What'd you have for dinner last night? Dinner last night. I think I know you better if I know your recipe. Think we're in this together, 'cause we all gotta eat.